Speaking of GMs and all that around, Ken Holland, GM of the Edmonton Oilers, spoke yesterday. It wasn't much of a surprise. Still, some of the big takeaways here. First off, he said he likes his team. They think they can win. He likes his roster. Did acknowledge right after the fact that he built the roster, so not a surprise there. He used a Bergevin classic that the answer is in the room.
I love that. It's so cliche.
Speaking of Bergevin classics, their first rounder is apparently off the table. As of right now, I think that's actually kind of a smart move because they're bad. But someone asked him, I forget the reporter, but it was, "Are you all in?" And he said yes. But there was an asterisk. He wouldn't give up an elite level talent or someone to bring in a fix for this year. I felt I could feel Oilers fans' pains now. And from the first question he ever got was, "Are you a fan or have you ever brought in a reclamation project?" And I think the third question was, "Are you interested in Evander Kane?" Because Darren Dreger reported, and I know I'm going all over the place here because we're going to spend time on this. I can guarantee you that. Because right now, we look at Edmonton and we know that there's issues in goal, there's issue with depth scoring, and their defense is questionable, right? The first immediate fix is goaltending because it's easiest to fix right away. Except Evander Kane is probably going to sign a 1-year deal whenever this grievance is sorted out. He'll be cheap, and that's a good the kind of player that they would love in Edmonton and Holland would love to have. And it's been reported, Darren Dreger said on Insider Trading, that there are 3 big teams at the top of Evander Kane's list right now. It could change, but he says the 2 Florida teams and Edmonton. So first off, we look silly saying no one would come to a team last episode. Regardless. Lot there.
For me, I guess, on ice production solely, he works for the Oilers. I think in terms of when you mentioned reclamation reclamation projects, the one thing I think you come close to is a Brendan Perlini, where I know it's not the same level, but it's the type of guy that he has had attitude problems before. He has requested trades from other teams before, and I know that they tried to remodel him as like a 4th line grinder to just try to add some depth to there because he was a lottery pick. But with Evander Kane, I know that he does address the scoring and everything, but for me, the way the year's been, the way everything's kind of been for that, like what kind of Evander Kane are you getting at this point? Because there's been so many stoppages with it where, yeah, you could add him as maybe a deadline piece, as a late season piece to try to help jumpstart the offense, but I still don't trust something like that.
Yeah, it's not a reclamation project. Listen, we know he's a good player. He's just a bad guy. The Overdrive segment talking about this was really, really good, by the way. I don't often listen to Overdrive, but I saw the clip and they had Mike Johnson on. But it's just, by the way, it's another example of how the NHL just don't. I saw this really funny tweet. It was talking about how Taylor Hall in his Edmonton days was known as this partier, great, horrible in the locker room and all that type of stuff. When he's tweeting about his boat license. What are you talking about? But Evander Kane is going to come in with all his noise around him. I just think that's really, really rich.
I know this is different, but this is something that I know it was Peter Chiarelli, but you remember when they got Brandon Manning from the Blackhawks?
So for those of you who don't remember, you remember how Panarin won the Calder people in his rookie year? Yeah, you know who he beat out for it? McDavid, because McDavid only played half a season because Brandon Manning broke his collarbone. And Chiarelli went out and got him. Could you imagine? I've used this example on the show before. I know I have. If Mark Bergeron had brought Chris Kreider into the Montreal Canadiens organization and Carey Price is there like, "Hi. Yeah, remember my knees? Dick."
Even Zdeno Chara.
Oh,
different, I guess.
The city would burn to a crisp.
Yeah.
He still gets booed today.
Yeah. I think he's kind of what, purely hockey standpoint, he's really what they need. But like there's this surrounding bubble, and I think we've had the discussion before, maybe with other players, but because I've seen people talk about it from Toronto standpoint, and I'm like, okay, is the room good enough to bring a guy like this in?
he you know, it's really funny. He mentioned that we have a strong room. I'm paraphrasing here. And you know what I thought of right away? And I remember, I think we did an episode when Evander Kane went to San Jose. I remember saying he'll be sorted out there because if you remember, for years the Sharks were like they almost had this air of the Island of Misfit Toys, where people could be themselves. You had Thornton and Burns doing the ESP body issue in their beards, and Don Cherry ripping them every Saturday, but they don't care because who cares what Don Cherry thinks? And we thought that it would work out there. So if it did work out in San Jose, like no one can take Duncan Keith seriously right now.
I was going to say that.
I doubt Evander Kane's going to listen to Connor. Like, respect to Connor McDavid, Evander Kane's not going to listen to Connor McDavid. He's not.
No, I don't think he is either. Like I think, and I mean all respect to Connor McDavid because he is a hell of a player and he, like nowhere close to what I could do. But no, I'm nowhere close to what he can do. Sorry, opposite. I don't know how much of a commanding presence like he's the captain, but the way it's perceived, I perceive it. I don't know how much of a commanding presence he has in that room, considering that they went out to get Duncan Keith in the summer.
It's not even just that. It's just, I don't think Kane's the type of guy to listen to anyone who he doesn't like. And if think of it, if Connor McDavid's egging you on, like skate harder, do this, do that, is Evander Kane, does he strike you as the kind of person that's sort of open to criticism? Maybe Duncan Keith will help him out, but like he's not going to listen to Darnell. Is he going to listen to Tippett? Doubt it.
Zach Cassian?
Maybe.
No.
No.
You know, he has a problem with enforcers before.
Ridiculous.
I think the thing here is if it was actually his second chance, as Ken Holland made it out to be, like maybe he got radioed a little bit, but I listened to that press conference a couple times. I maybe have a different opinion and say, okay, fine. Maybe he'd listen to them, but there's clear evidence on now 3 different teams where it didn't work.
That whole press conference, defend Alex here. Listen, Holland's been around a long time. He knows what he says, especially in the Canadian market. And he was defensive for a lot of stuff in that press conference. Sorry to shift off of Evander Kane here, guys. We've talked about him a lot this year, and I hope to never speak of him again, but we probably will because
we will have to, yeah.
Character.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to mention the goaltending because it's been a rather important topic. Even Alex and I have been a bad bit back and forth about it. I mean, we still agree it's bad, but when asked about it, like Holland went on this diatribe where he was like talking about the history of their goaltending last year, right? And the point of we need Smitty back was a big talking. He was asked, do you see any responsibility with Stuart Skinner? Which, fair, young goalie, you never know, right? And then he turned it into, we need Smitty back. We need Mike Smith back. Is this the play? Like, it's almost he still has this hope in Mike Smith, which even I'm off of that boat now. And I defended Mike Smith for months. What are we doing here?
You know, he actually made one really good point in that entire press conference when he says, you know, this isn't like I'm paraphrasing here, but he pretty much said it's not just one problem. We have issues with, you know, our goaltending, our defense, our secondary scoring, our power plays not clicking, our penalty kills not working. Like he had that spot on. Well, but everything else, like he was just it felt like he was contradicting himself.
You know what? Okay, 2 things. I liked the honesty from Ken Holland. I really liked that he listed out, kind of hung out the team to dry, but you know, they needed this at this point to jumpstart them. But I think the second thing is, and I've said it before, this just is going to sound like a bunch of those, let's see if I can maximize this value type of trade. Like I think I'm going to just predict this. I might be wrong. Other than an Evander Kane signing, we're just going to see like a Mike Green type of trade.
What, bringing in older...
Bringing in like an older guy thinking he could reclaim something, and then you trade away like a 4th round pick.
He already did that. He traded for Duncan Keith.
Don't forget about, you mentioned a fourth for a random guy. That was the Dmitry Kulikov trade. That was the boys are playing well. Let's go out and get Dmitry Kulikov last year.
Like listen, this is the third GM in Canada to have a press conference like this. 2 general managers have been fired and 1 coach has been fired. The only reason Dominic Ducharme is not fired right now is because they've kind of given up. Like, right? Is that fair, Adam? That's a fair assessment.
Ducharme is their best chance of finishing last.
Right. So, like, it just feels like I'm not predicting the future, but we've press conferences like this, and I don't think this press conference went well at all, in my opinion. Like, it felt like a disaster.
He was confident.
He reminded me, Ken Holland. He reminded me that they had 7 coaches in 10 years.
Yeah, that was because I don't Tippett shouldn't be fired. It's just not his fault. I mean, has he been again? He should not have thrown Koskinen under the bus like he did. But no, I agree. Like, you shouldn't continue. How many coaches had Ryan Nugent Hopkins had? Like, is it 7?
7.
Is it all of them?
Yeah, he's been there. Yeah,
I had a tweet when he made that. Let's see if I can find it now. But pretty much, there are how many coaches do you think were above 500?
0.
1.
2 of them, and now I can't find it. But one of them is Dave Tippett.
Yeah, and what, McLennan?
It was like 2017.
And Todd McClellan, who was barely over 500.
Was that 2017?
No, I mean, like, as their career. As an Oilers coach,
okay, yeah.
2 coaches in the last decade have a points percentage above 500.
And it was like Dallas Aikens, Ralph Kruger.
Yeah, and Ken Hitchcock was there for a season and a half or so. Like, it's just, maybe you're not like, he made that point. Maybe you're not bringing in the right coaches, Ken. Like, that's not him personally, because obviously Peter Chiarelli and I believe Craig McTavish, but I get the point, and I don't think Dave Tippett should be fired. I don't get the point.
Can't wait till they hire Joe Quenneville, by the way. Anyway.
I feel like, okay, that'd be a smarter move than like Evander Kane, but I know that there's so much controversy around that. That's something that should simmer for a while. We'll see how the Joe Quenneville thing goes.
Put water over it and don't bring him back ever. Quenneville has no place in the game anymore. Like, absolutely none. But Holland, under my leadership, will teach this. How old is Quenneville? Probably in his 60s. You know, we can change him though. We can change Evander Kane, a fully grown man who knows his choices and whatnot.
He's 30 now, right? Yeah.
Evander Kane? Yeah. I believe so. Around there.
He's a grown man. A very, very grown man. Okay.
Funny thing, just one more thing for Evander Kane, because just one more thing I want to say is I remember when Buffalo, they were really bad and they jumped the gun to get Evander Kane, because they said that if we get either McDavid or Eichel, he needs a 30-goal scorer beside him. And then it'd be ironic if he ends up with both Jack Eichel in his career and Connor McDavid.